Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So you should know that the sweat glands that are located in your armpits, on the surface of part of the breast, and in the groin give you a particular odor. In Western civilization, we're obsessed, or for good or for bad, or for good, to take a shower every day. I do that. I guess most of us do that, but otherwise you may develop an unpleasant odor. But since we have so many genes that control our receptors in our nose for picking out smell, the odor that people have on their body is noticed by their mates and plays a major role in who you pick as your mate. Okay, so sweat glands. So the two types, American here is going to release sweat onto the surface. So that's American gland. Here's another American gland. This is the apocrine gland. It's associated with hair follicles. It's going to add a certain odor that your hair will develop over time. We all use smell 'em goods or cologne or perfume because we humans like to change how we smell, and because that's a very, very important attractant to determine who your mate's going to be. So here's the subcutaneous layer, the dermis, the epidermis. These are American sweat glands that are most abundant in the skin. Their primary job is to release sweat and waste onto the surface. They release some salt, some a lot of fluid, and some waste materials. And their primary job is to cool us by evaporative cooling. The African sweat gland is usually associated with a hair follicle, and it's part of the process of giving us a unique odor. Remember that the epidermal tissue grows down to uh, form the outer covering of the hair follicle. So the skin, major role in body temperature. Sweat cools us by evaporative cooling. Uh, the dermal circulation is going to deliver the blood when we're very, very hot. That's why our face gets red when it's very, very hot, because the blood is carrying uh, heat stored in its liquid constituent, and that's going to allow that heat to radiate and will be cooled by evaporation of sweat. Okay, I'm not going to ask you about the nails. Okay, skin injury. First thing that's going to happen is inflammation. So when you're attacked by bacteria, you get a cut, and uh, more blood's going to flow there. That's going to send white blood cells that are going to attack the bacteria and clean up dead tissues. Scabs will form. Uh, cells will continue to divide and migrate, and you could get a scar. So here's pictures of that process. All I want you to know is that inflammation is the first response, and these scab formation, cell division, and scar formation. Uh, Obviously, the whole purpose of this is to stop bleeding so that you don't die of blood loss. So this whole clotting process that starts with inflammation and scab formation and growth of new cells to replace damaged tissue and rebuild, but you may have a scar. Just look at these steps. Okay, we'll call it there, and we're going to go back to here and stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.